Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this new episode of Inspiring Our World. Speaking of inspired, I am super inspired today to be talking with one of our most favorite consultants, Mike DiMuccio. Mike and I go back a long way, and we're like a brother and sister in this business for the last 26 or so years, I guess, Mike. So thanks for being here. And I know we're going to be talking about you being a dad and building this business as a dad and all about that. So here we go. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Julie.
So tell me a little bit. I know you had an extraordinary experience with your own father, when you started this business. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, at the time, my father owned and operated a factory where they manufactured furniture, and he'd spent all his years on a concrete floor, and of course that probably wreaked havoc on his back. But he was in a particular time when his sciatica was acting up. It was so bad, he was limping around the house. He was wincing as he walked. Climbing the steps was, it was almost like he needed somebody to help him up the steps. It was a bad situation, and that's when I was introduced to Nikken, that very first evening. So I got home with some black and white photocopied material to read over, the compensation plan, a little bit about the company, things like that, and a sample, one of the smaller Nikken magnets at the time. I think we called them promo magnets because they were promotional. In any event, I had been told, put it on where it hurts, and it helped me during the course of the meeting that evening. And so I thought, wow, if this really works on my dad, then I kind of thought about utilizing him as my beta test. I figured if it helped him, it could help anybody, because I wasn't sure if I placeboed myself when I was trying the product. So this was kind of my scientific approach to see if it worked. Anyway, so I told him to put it on where it hurts. He didn't know anything about Nikken, didn't even know about the product, knew nothing about there being a business opportunity. But it was two nights of using this on the small of his back, tiny magnet, Nikken magnet, and he called me from work and said, "Can you get some more? I got some friends at work that want to buy them." I'm like, "What happened?" And he said, "It's gone." And I thought he'd lost the magnet. I was freaking out because it wasn't even mine. I was borrowing it. Anyway, it turns out what was gone was all the discomfort. And so I was absolutely blown away. It was like a light bulb went off in an instant. I knew this was going to be huge. And to be able to impact somebody you're that close to is something. But it's funny, for the first few years, my dad would almost ridicule the idea of my son, the aerospace engineer, and now the magnet salesman. But I'll tell you what, when he was at the Paul Anka concert at one of the Nikken conventions up at the front row, and Paul Anka came right to our row and started singing in the audience, my dad was a whole other person, and so proud, of course, and had been the remainder of his life proud of all the achievements and accomplishments thanks to Nikken. And not only that, but the lifestyle it's provided me and the opportunities I was able to provide him as a father, being able to send him on trips in different parts of the world, stay at my home in Barbados, and things that I just simply would not have been able to afford to do. And his health, just the fact that he was able to do things that certainly would not have been possible because of all of his ailments prior. The Nikken products became his best friend. I remember, tubes of CM cream at his house all the time because he just loved the CM cream. Anyway, it's great to be able to have made a difference in his life. And I probably, might argue that he had not only a better quality of life, but maybe even a longer life as a consequence.
That's a fantastic story, and you cover on a couple of things that I really want to reiterate, and that is, one is, there's nothing like that feeling of your dad being proud of you, and I know for me that was very personal with my father with Nikken, that he was so proud of what I did, and it was just a huge kind of, I don't know, some kind of healing for us around, because he had left when I was a kid. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, of course, the technologies, which we know are extraordinary and help so easily, without any side effects. And it made me think, My dad had hurt his ankle badly in a parachute accident during Second World War, and the insoles really were phenomenal for him because he used to get all this swelling and then it went away. And so he became an aficionado of Nikken products, sleep, everything that we had at the time. And like your dad, he was a doctor, not your dad was a doctor, but he had this skepticism, like, what is Julie doing now? She's just kind of gone off the rails with this Nikken thing, this magnets. But he got it through the use of the products, and then he started studying magnetism, and then he got super excited about it. And then, at the end of his life, he said, "You're light years ahead of me in medicine." And he was a top professor at UCLA and started the Department of Psychoneuroimmunology and the Department of Medical Ethics there. So, he was very, very famous. And for him to say such a thing was, I don't know, it was such a healing between us, because he was definitely Western medicine and I was definitely Eastern energy medicine. So it kind of brought us together. So I think this feeling of like, there's some kind of tremendous depth of healing that can happen with a dad when they really get what you're up to and why you're doing what you're doing. And your father really saw it, and he saw the results of the brilliant business that you've built.
And he didn't hesitate to share them.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't long before he was telling all his friends, and I was being called on to, hey, can you look at his situation and see if there's something you can do? And, that's another thing that, when you can contribute to their life that way, because now he feels like he had a helping hand in helping somebody. And so, yeah, it has a radial effect.
I love that. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. And when people have the heart to really help our world that way, it's beautiful to see that, especially in the family. And speaking of family, you have 3 fabulous kids, and 2 of them have now chosen to follow in your footsteps, which is extremely exciting. They're both very talented, as is your son as well. And so let's talk about this, because this is huge. You're really building a whole legacy here, the DiMuccio legacy with Nikken.
Oh, this is huge. And by the way, my niece Elena as well, who's joined this effort. But speaking as a father, I look at very successful men in the world, even women in the world, but particularly men who work with their children in their large corporations or in their marketing campaigns or whatnot. And I've always imagined, they'd be on luxury yachts together, or they'd be traveling the world together. And I always thought, that would be the absolute ideal scenario, is to be able to spend time in our adult life with the people we love the most. Because you have them for a while when they're growing up, but then they find their own way and they find their own world, and usually they don't cross very much, except for maybe the holidays or important events. And that's just not enough for me, or didn't feel like it was going to be enough for me. So I always imagined, whether I would fund a business of theirs or just something that would keep us connected, where we had a common purpose and we were building something together, aka a legacy. Thinking about them joining Nikken, for sure. But being that I've seen people in my own family, they think, well, that's Mike's thing, right? Everybody's got their thing, and Mike's thing is Nikken. And so I imagine my kids thought that way for the longest time as well. And so I did not expect that they would make the move that they made. They came to me, and that was the most amazing, compelling, and surprising thing, because it wasn't me offering it. It wasn't me suggesting it. It wasn't me insisting on it. Nothing like that. When they came to me, it was them. It was driven by what they had perceived. And that was, in fact, the way they tell the story is amazing. They tell a great story. So if you ever get a chance to be on one of their meetings or their calls, just listen. They're brilliant. I'm so proud of them and so baffled by their intelligence. It's like they know Nikken better than I do. And of course, they've lived it their entire life. So we can get into that. But the fact that they decided to do this was because they're intelligent enough, and they know, my daughter Sophia is an aerospace engineer graduate, just like me. My daughter Savannah graduated psychology. So it's not like they don't know what's going on out there. It's just they didn't find anything, or to date haven't seen anything that remotely looks like the kind of life or lifestyle that they've seen me live. So they're thinking correctly. You know, back in the day when they heard me talk, I would always ask the question, when asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's the wrong question. I would ask, how do you want to live when you grow up? Because you could be any number of things, but how do you want to live? Those things may not line up with the way you want to live. So you better get that straight. And then you won't be so disappointed if they don't line up. So having a lifestyle in mind and then lining that up with what you might be doing to be able to afford that lifestyle becomes really, really important. And so I guess that lasted in their mind, because when they started taking stock of it from graduation, they looked around and they were already at the point where they realized there's not too many people who live like my dad. And the thing that made it possible for him the way he lives and talk about the things that he talks about and teach what he teaches is Nikken and everything Nikken. And being so familiar with Nikken as a user of the products, as a person who lived vicariously through me, because when I would be driving them to school, for instance, I might share with them a text that I just received or an email that I just received. And it was somebody somewhere in the world thanking me for something I said or something I did. And that wasn't random. That happened so often that they noticed that. And that, I guess, is something also that caught their attention because they've mentioned that on their calls. So when they joined Nikken back, it's about a year. In fact, a couple of days ago, my daughter, Sophia, texted us on our group chat and said, hey, it's 1 year anniversary of the meeting at the round table. For those of you who don't know, I have a round table in my other room in my office here at my house that's designed in the likeness of the 5 pillars image that we do the circle with the 5 pillars around it. It seats 10 people. It's made of glass. It's magnificent. Anyway, we had our first business meeting there, me, Sophia, Savannah, and Elena. And that meeting was to initiate them into a vision. What was it that they wanted to do with Nikken? What was going to be their role in bringing Nikken into the world through their point of view and to their audience? And so that's where it began about a year ago. It was May 27th, a year ago. So the fact that we've been able to have meetings where we're envisioning and visioneering the future, and we're imagining a life that is impactful of others, and how they're acquiring the information, how they're delivering the information, being so intimately involved in their day-to-day. You know, they rolled, all 3 of them came in with suitcases one day, and I'm like, you moving in? And they're like, yep. That's exactly what they did last summer, is they moved in. And so it was day-to-day. It was amazing. Now they're traveling, but it was an incredible experience. And gosh, I don't think there's a better experience in the world than having your kids say, I want to work with you, and I want to do what you're doing, and I want to make Nikken special.
It's such a privilege. And for you, you know, part of it is thinking, you know, with your Italian background, you know, your desire to keep the unification of the family is very deep in you, clearly, and in them. And so, but I love it that you said that they came to you, having observed you throughout their lives doing this business, and then they came to you. It wasn't you sort of saying, hey, you know, how about you doing this along with me? That's really thrilling. You know, I love you. I love your girls. I don't know your son, but I love your girls. I've interviewed them a fair bit, and I just feel such a resonance with them. It's really a joy. They're brilliant. They're so smart. They're fabulous on social media. They're traveling. They're free-spirited. They're creative and very loving and really wanting to serve. And you get that, and have the life they really dream of. So I think you've done a phenomenal job as a dad, and of course there are moms in there too. I'm sure she's done a fabulous job too. So gosh, well, how was it for you doing this business with them when they were little and growing up? Was that easy for you? How did you balance things?
Well, I mean, that's the trick, is balance, because there were times where it was difficult and times when it was just thank God I'm in Nikken. So the times that are difficult, of course, is when I was doing a lot of traveling at one point in time. We decided to relocate to Barbados because it just made sense financially. And that became the base. And so flying out of Barbados was a little bit more challenging because you had to fly into another major city first before actually heading into your destination, versus Toronto where you have direct flights. But at that time, I was probably away half the time, half of the month. So yeah, the time away is really challenging. I guess that's why I appreciate the time together now even more. And we didn't have video conferencing, so we didn't have the ability to stay that connected as we do now. Video conferencing is such an incredible tool. So the hardest part was being away. That was it. That was the hardest part. But I brought them when I could, where I could. And they were given privileged opportunities that few children have. They know it. They recognize the privileges they've had. They've traveled. They've been on stage. They've been on stage with me since they were babies. They've been exposed to the likes of Bob Proctor. In fact, he was the first man outside of myself to hold Sophia when she was born. So they've been in close proximity to the people I would want them to be in proximity of, learning from them, even quietly sitting in a room, but listening, because they do hear. And so the other things that I think were great was, I was the guy who drove them to school. So I was the dad who was always at school and picking them up and so forth. And, that was the best time. That was the best part of my day, was driving them along the coast in Barbados to school and back. And, just being that guy who got to be at the sporting events, the guy who got to be at the things that they do that are important to them as children. With my son, taking them to karate and having dinners and all of the things that are the little things, but are the big things, especially later in life when you realize, boy, if I could go back, how much more I would have been there. But the fact that I was even able to be there during those privileged times, I think, is something most dads don't ever get a chance to do. They're the dad when they get home from work, and there's responsibilities there, and then they're too tired to do too much more. But I was around a lot. When I was there I was there in every aspect. So, and I was there at least half the time for sure, full time. So it was great that way. And again, the privileges, the fact that if we took a vacation, we'd pick anywhere, we'd go and we'd stay at fine places and have all the time and the food and so forth. My kids are foodies like me because they've been eating, fine food since they can remember. And I think one of the reasons why they're so good with people, like they have this incredible ability to talk with people at every level and any age, like without effort, is because they've been doing it all their life. When, they came with me to dinners and meetings, and so they were introduced to people. They weren't just, sit there and be quiet. They were allowed to be part of the experience. So they got an education that you don't get at school. So I think that's probably why a lot of, when I've listened to motivational stuff and whatever, they'd hear it too in the car. So it was an incredible opportunity to be a dad raising children as a Nikken consultant because of the time we got to spend together and the time now.
Well, it's like by osmosis. It sounds like they got so much through osmosis, and we talk a lot about mirror neurons and how important it is to be around successful people in your life, because those mirror neurons really, they're very effective, and we rise to a higher level, which is, I think, in network marketing, we see, look at the middle kind of income of the 10 people that are your closest friends, and you'll see kind of where you're at. And it's so interesting to look at that. So, our children, in fact, it's funny, I just had dinner with my son yesterday, and we were talking about the sports events because, being in Nikken, I never missed a sporting event of his, basketball, baseball. He's really into baseball. And we were talking about it and reminiscing, I'd take him all over Colorado for those games and so forth. So I think it means a lot when kids can have their parents there witnessing them striving and doing the things that they love and are passionate about, and failing and getting up and doing it again and getting better. It's a lot. And especially, again, there's something about having your dad there. There's just something about having your dad. And it always made me sad how few fathers were at those sports events or singing concerts, whatever. So I love that thought that you were so present as much as you could be, and you were building a massive international business at the same time. So you were able to juggle it the best you knew how. And I'm having this vision, Mike, I gotta say, of like, you know, your kids growing up with this and building beautiful, huge businesses, and that's a legacy. And then I'm seeing their kids and you being the grandfather of this kind of wonderful dynasty, you know, of love and service and abundance and success and happiness and freedom. Because I think one of the greatest things Nikken offers all of us is freedom to be who we want to be and be the best version of who we can be. So, I mean, kudos to you for doing such a great job with
By the way, just an FYI on my son, you know, one of the things that I think is relevant, especially right now where he's concerned, we have a vision 2025 to attract 10 million new active wellness members. Now, if you know, we're not even close to 1 million on the books. So to hit 10 million in the next 3 years seems just ridiculous, impossible, except for one thing. He started doing material on videos on YouTube, started in TikTok, and then migrated his audience over to YouTube. And he's got 2.6 million followers in 12 months. He's had over 1 billion views inside of 1 year.
How does he do that?
I mean, you just think about that. That's crazy. And he's doing it. He's at 19 years old. He's doing it out of his bedroom, doing the whole thing. It's like me in my bedroom when I started my Nikken business. So I look at that and the influence that he's had. And what's to say that we're not going to attract talent like that applies that understanding into our business. And then, you know, 10 million active wellness members will seem like a small number. And that's kind of what I am anticipating from this next generation, this younger generation, is that they're going to be able to figure it out. We have the vision for it. We just don't know how that vision is going to be reality. But when did you ever have to know how? You have to first start with the vision and then you figure out the how. So I think the how is there. We just haven't yet put it together, but it's there. And he's an example of how it could happen.
It's lovely to hear that. It's just exponential growth is a wonder. It's a marvelous thing. And I know Mike Dooley, I went and did one of his workshops once playing the Matrix, and he was like, your job is to know what you really want, you know, and it's God's job to figure out the how and show you, you know.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where faith comes in. Faith comes in where you say, look, I don't know how, but I know there is a how because there is a why. And there's a want. So there's got to be a how. That's the nature of the universe. It's God's job to figure out those pieces. That's the invisible world.
You know, that reminds me of that fabulous talk you did once called The Faith of a Mustard Seed. Let's just talk about that for a minute.
My favorite talk.
Yeah.
Well, faith. I mean, a lot of people don't, I think, really understand what that's about, the word faith. They think faith is, I have to have faith, which is implied belief in an invisible Santa Claus that dispenses favors. That's not faith. Faith is when you don't have belief and you don't even need belief because you have faith. It's the absence of belief that requires faith. So it's the idea that you can imagine something in your mind and in your heart and go about attempting to bring that into reality through faith, not because you know how it's going to happen. In fact, my mentor, Bob, would always say, you're not going to know how it's going to happen until it's happened. Then you'll be able to look back and see how it happened. So worrying about how it's going to happen is pointless. Just be sure about what it is that you're creating and have faith that you're doing the things that you need to do to manifest it. And when it happens, then you'll know how it happened. So it's the faith is the thing that replaces the need for us to understand the how and the need for us to have the belief. And I know this is important because in network marketing, I've read books And just about everybody who teaches this they say, oh, you got to believe in the company, and you got to believe in the products, and you got to believe in network marketing, and you got to believe in yourself. Well, where's faith in that? There isn't faith in that. Most people don't believe in any of those things when they start a network marketing business. So how the heck are they ever going to get past the fact that they don't believe it? Belief is experiential in nature. You believe something when you've experienced it, either yourself or through somebody else. So how do we get past that huge gap? The answer is faith. You don't have to believe. You just have to have the faith that it's doable, it's possible, and then operate as though it's impossible not to succeed.
So what allows us to have the faith?
But what is faith? It's knowing, trusting that there is a lawful process of manifestation and creation. And I think at the end of the day, the only way to have that is to believe in a higher power. And so the people who are lost in the world, I think, are the people who've lost the connection to the higher power. The people who are paranoid or afraid or running around in fear, who are being manipulated left, right, and center, are easily manipulated because they have no faith.
They've lost the connection. So, yeah. It's true, because when I was first shown Nikken, I had asked for something, to transform my life and my family's life. And when this came, I said, is this what you want me to do? And I heard a very clear yes. And I was like, if I do it, can I be successful? And I heard another very clear yes. And it was literally those two yeses and my surrender to that allowed everything to happen. And that didn't mean I didn't, borrow money to invest in the technologies to get out into the world and all the rest. Of course, I did those things, but and work the business. But it was the faith that I knew this was huge and I was supposed to be a part of it. And honestly, I couldn't be more excited than I am today about where we're going. The world needs us more than ever, and the world is ripe for what we have now. The world is far riper than when we started in 1995 or so,
And you just think about who you're attracted to. I mean, we want to attract 10 million people to this and more. Well, who are people attracted to? People who seem to know where they're going and know what they want. That's who they're attracted to. They're not attracted to people who are fearful. They're not attracted to people who are doubtful. Doubt is the actual opposite of faith. So they're attracted to people who are faithful. Well, what is faith? It's an action, and it's demonstratable. And I'll give you an example. If you plant a seed in the soil, you demonstrate faith when you water the soil every day. You don't know what's going on under the soil. There's a miracle taking place that's way outside of your control. But if you have doubt that that seed is actually growing, what will you do? You'll dig up the soil to see what's happening and destroy it in the process. So faith is an action. You demonstrate faith by being faithful to whatever it is that you're manifesting. And so it's the bride and the groom scenario. Are you faithful? Are you faithful to the outcome? Are you faithful to the person you are becoming in the process of setting the goal and working towards achieving the goal? Are you maintaining your faith to that outcome? And that is really what faith is. It's a faithfulness, and it's a demonstratable thing.
Wow, I absolutely love this. My whole body is tingling from the words you just spoke. Words are so powerful, and when they convey a truth, you can just feel it all through. So there's a resonance and alignment to that. So, gosh, let's touch that in. Let's connect the dots for fathers, because we're going to have Father's Day in just a few days after this podcast comes out. And I love Father's Day, and I love fathers. I love seeing fathers with their kids. It makes me so happy when you see happy, joyful families. So how do we tie that in for dads? What do you see for dads in the world? How can Nikken be of service to them and them to Nikken?
Well, I think, you don't want to be isolated because it's difficult enough. So how do we get the dads to connect, to be part of something of a community? Nikken is an amazing community because it represents all the virtues that we aspire to for our children. I mean, what do you want for your kids? Mr. Masuda, when his mother used to whisper into his ears as a child, she would say, you will be happy, you will be healthy, you will have a healthy family and good relationships, you'll be a contributor to society, you'll have finances, healthy finances. She was whispering into him the 5 pillars of health. It's no wonder we have the 5 pillars of health as our legacy and as our purpose, because it was what was given to him, imparted to him by his mom. And that was, that's a legacy that we want for our children. So as a dad, that's what you want for your kids. But how do you, again, it's a demonstration. How do you as a dad demonstrate your commitment to that? Because they follow in the footsteps of the parents most often than not. So if you're raising a young family, the best thing you could possibly do for them is be that representation. Be the person who's actually living the truth and living those 5 pillars of wellness by embracing it, by encouraging it. My kids are my kids, and they are who they are to a large extent, and they'll admit it themselves, as they have several times on Nikken presentations, that they're a product of the environment they were raised in, and that environment was heavily influenced by the Nikken philosophy and everything Nikken, right down to the products. I mean, when Nikken would launch a new product, and I would announce to the family, and as the shipment arrived at the door, the new products are here, my girls would come running into the kitchen to see me opening up the box to see what they were. I mean, they were so interested in what was coming up.
Yes.
You know, you don't realize the impact that you have when what you have is so good that it speaks to their soul, and it imbues them with this understanding, the sacred knowledge. So be the best dad you can be by being somebody who's faithful to that philosophy of balance in the 5 pillars. I mean, start there. What does that mean? It means, hey, are you doing the things today that are improving the quality of your health physically? Are you doing the things today that are improving the quality of your health mentally, emotionally? Hey, are you doing the things today that are improving the quality of your relationships with your immediate family? Hey, are you doing the things today that are improving the quality of your relationships with society? And are you doing the things today that are improving the quality of your income? What do I mean by the quality? I didn't say quantity. I said quality. You know, if you're going to spend the rest of your life trading time for money, then you're not going to have either. You might as well figure out a way to generate an income independent of time. Hence, again, Nikken. So, you know, Nikken is a great vehicle and a tool for raising oneself into a fully self-actualized human being. And what could be a better example for a child than somebody who's taken it that serious?
Absolutely. I mean, our whole business is all about human transformation and relationships. And you just said it so beautifully. I feel, I know you have other meetings to go to. And so I feel like this is a good place to complete our time together. But thank you, Mike, so much for this beautiful conversation. You are so loved and admired in the Nikken world. Thank you for all that you have done, are doing, and will do as we grow into this phenomenal global wellness community and 10 million beautiful people out there who are experiencing all the gifts that Nikken has to offer. So
well, thank you, Julie, and the same to you. Thanks for all of your years of service. Like you said, we're kind of brothers and sisters in this. We've grown up together in this, and we will see this through.
Yes, absolutely, we will. I have absolute faith that that is so. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this podcast. And you can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe. Don't hesitate to comment on the YouTube part of it. And we love you, and we look forward to being with you next week for the next episode of Inspiring Our World. This is Julie Tara signing off. Thanks again. Much love. Bye for now.